Hello and welcome to another Webinar Wednesday. This is Trevor, and today we're going to be talking about a few different tips and layout options that you can build better landing pages and web forms from. So to get started, let's talk a little bit about what the difference is between the two according to Infusionsoft. And so if we just open up a campaign builder, which is where those forms would reside, you can come under your goals section. In the sign up for a newsletter, this little icon on the bottom left is referring to it being a web form, whereas this little red target is referring to it being a landing page. You can change any icon you want, of course, just by clicking on it and changing it to one or the other if you prefer a different icon. But the main difference between these two is a web form here. We'll just title it for clarity. The web form is meant to be a smaller portion of a larger page, whereas the landing page itself is meant to be obviously the full page. It's not really meant to be incorporated as part of an existing page. It's supposed to mainly take up the whole thing. So that's the two differences there. You have less integration options to tie this into sites and whatnot. Whereas a web form, you have many choices. You can iframe it in even. So what that means is, for those who don't know, any changes you make to the form itself will automatically update themselves on your site without having to go back and replace the code. A landing page only gives you the HTML, and that choice will require you to make updates to your code on your page if you're making changes to the form itself. So that's the main difference between the two there. But when we take a look, the web forms have a much greater or much easier, I should say, capability to be able to be easily tied into different sites and things. If you already have your forms stylized on your page, if it's like a contact us form, just wanted to point out here, like on our site, for example, you have the name, email, phone. You can do this in any way you want. This is a Infusionsoft form, but you could even go as far as putting the name fields inside the text box. You could do a number of other things stylistically that you could easily just make them the forms. And I've actually covered some of these on one of the previous webinars, code tricks. And anyway, so we can look more into that later. But so on the web form or the landing page, you have the same options as far as what pieces you can put into place, from like paragraphs, name, email, phone, custom fields, any of that. But let's take a quick glance at the two different setup. I'm going to point out just a couple things for you. So you'll notice this has a larger section of unused space on either side of it. You can obviously come to your layout and style and change if you want any sort of color, for example. But on the layout section, this web form has no side columns to be able to turn on or off. You can change the form width to expand your space. However, keep in mind that as you do so, the label and the field will get farther and farther apart. You can increase the field width as well, but these will still be, way over here. You'll just simply have a very long text box to enter it into. So that's the difference here. You're really not trying to make this a full page, because if you are, it's better to use a landing page. Or if you're just trying to make a wider section and have it not look funny, I can show you how to do that in the landing pages, in fact. So again, you can see your label positioning. You can adjust some of that. Header and footer, if you want to put an image across the top, because right now you'll see I have about 20 pixels worth of margin on either side, give or take. And with that being said, if you put an image in, then it's going to, obviously you can see the outline. It does have those margins. Whereas if I turn on the header, now of course I can put it in where it's outlining the whole section, so it wouldn't have any margin if that was the case. Similarly with the footer, you could do the same thing. In either case, you can't use merge fields, of course, because we don't know who is signed up yet. on this page. The thing that you need to be aware of, however, is you do have other benefits. In the settings of either web form or landing page, the first choice here says auto-populate, and it defaults to be checked. And it's saying, of course, auto-populate this form with contacts information when visited from an Infusionsoft delivered email. That is true of the email as well as from a previously filled out form. So, for example, Infusionsoft's forms, be them web forms, order forms, landing pages, whatever, Infusionsoft uses the client's email address as the unique identifier to know who has filled out the form. So if I delete the email and I put other things here, but never collect the email, sure, they can submit it, but it's never going to tie them back to an existing contact record if one exists. And so you're never going to have really proper dupe checking going on to be able to identify those who come through your system. So it's recommended that you always have the email on a form. Now, it's not always necessary that you have the email field visible. You could add a hidden field here, for example, and come down to email. Don't fill anything in because it'll fill itself in, as we saw from the setting. So again, if you're using Infusionsoft's hosted version or the iframe version on your site, they click the email, they'll get set up here. And anyway, and you can adjust the URL on the link itself to include the email parameter if needed. So anyway, it'll pull in the email here. And similarly, if I have a multi-step offer or a survey with multiple forms involved, you could do this, and it's recommended that you do this, where you have the initial form, if it could include new people, have their email address, and the rest of them simply have a hidden field with the email. So you can ask relevant information without having to always be asking for the email that you've already collected initially. So that's, again, just a tip for you using the hidden fields there. So let's take a look now. We've seen the layout options here on the web form. Let's go over to a landing page and discuss a few possibilities. So you can obviously see I have a large header. I have now a left and a right side column, and I don't have a footer enabled, but I could down the road turn on a footer if I want. Now, if this is the layout you're going for, it's fine. Check out, at least to know your options, your layout section here under a landing page. Some prefer to have just more of a larger middle section with maybe a smaller left and a right side margin, basically, without having data in each section, each column. With a landing page, you can get up to 3 sections. We'd have to confirm, but I think the smallest amount, if I recall accurately, is 100 pixels that you can make the left and right side column. So what I mean by that is, why would that matter? If we turn the right column on and off, and we adjust this, and you can adjust it just by typing in and hitting enter. The only thing you have to do is make sure that you click out of it before you start scrolling up or down this section, because otherwise your scroll will scroll up those numbers and down that number, and so it's going to be kind of crazy. So you can obviously then adjust these down to whatever you want, but as you can see, by turning the left and right side column on, and if the right column's on already, turn it off and back on again so it clears the stuff that's in that column. It would be easier for you to do it that way. Once you have it all set up the way you want, now you have a larger middle section. You still have a full width upper header area that you can add your logo, add other text even if you want. You can do whatever else you need to there, but anyway, then now you can see I have more of a larger section that I can work with. I can still put any other content in here that I want, but let me close this. If you wanted, you could turn on the footer and basically have full width text, a middle section that has margin, and then full width text again. You know what I mean? So you have a couple of choices there. When it comes to the field labels, this particular setup, you can obviously adjust your field width if you want them farther apart or not. Or you could actually utilize the columns that contain multiple pieces of data and then have your fields in there. There's no difference when it comes to the fields that you can include, so there's no changes in that sense. The only other thing that I might point out for you here is, for example, if we had a paragraph set up like we do here, you have to have a paragraph snippet to be able to utilize tables in either emails, landing pages, or web forms. So you have a paragraph snippet, and then you can say insert after you highlight anything that may be in there. And then you insert a table, choose whatever parameters for the table you want. And then you have a space sometimes right above it that defaults to be there. Rather than trying to go down to the table then hitting delete, you actually just put your cursor where the space is and hit the delete key to get that space to remove. And then you can increase these to whatever length that you're looking for here. And that's how you can get a table. Then you can come back and insert images, text, whatever you want. But you cannot pull in labels and whatnot. As you can see, it's either above or below the table. I can't insert field labels into my created tables here, so keep that in mind. Otherwise, that's how you can start building out more content. Once you have it, you can create tables within a table by just selecting a cell and insert another table. So it takes a little adjusting to get it to fill the full cell, but you can do it. So if you need any help with that or have questions, fill out the form below. We can try and touch base with you. So otherwise, we've already discussed when it comes to the emails in one of the previous webinars how to work with and embed videos. If we look at some of our snippets here, you have a YouTube snippet, and if you drag that into place, all that it's requesting is your video ID on YouTube. So if you are unfamiliar with that, let's go ahead and pull up YouTube here. Once you're inside whatever the video is that you want to look at, for example, you just click on one of them. There we go. So it says v equals at the end of the URL string. That value that it's equaling is your video ID. So you can copy that in and bring that over. The videos themselves will not play directly from an email. However, they will play directly on a web form or a landing page. Similarly, if you're not using YouTube, maybe you're using Vimeo or something like that, you can use your HTML snippet and then just paste in the embed code that it gives you, and it'll play your video on the page. So from your preview screen, you won't be able to click and play it, but you'll just simply have to make sure it's from not draft, but in the ready mode, then go and publish it, and then just hop back, go into the code tab, click the link to view your actual landing page, and then you'll be able to see the content there. You'll be able to see your video and test it, make sure it's going to work and do what you want it to. You'll notice, this is a good tip to point out, now I've adjusted the dimensions. I've adjusted to have my content in the middle, no right or left column having content. Now, when I click on the link, why doesn't it show that? The reason being is, just like I mentioned with the videos, you have to publish your page to be able to see any of the changes you've been editing be put into effect. So this is the last basically active phase that the landing page was in, and I haven't published or made anything else active since. So that's why that you're seeing this, that it hasn't had any changes put into place. So let's talk a little bit about the thank you pages. What I'm about to show you is the same for a landing page or a web form, makes no difference. You come over to the thank you page tab. Give it a second here to load. There we go. You'll have to readjust your styling if you don't have a master thank you page set up for any of these, but you can just come in here and select whatever the style is that you want. Insert your logo. You'll notice on the thank you page, I can reference merge fields. So you can make a unique message for the clients who have filled it out. You could do a number of other things here. You could still get a video to play on the thank you page. your option is obviously using an Infusionsoft thank you page, or select a web address and put in a URL that you already have set up for a thank you page, either on your site or elsewhere. Or the other option is to use a thank you page, but you actually, if it's a multi-step process, multiple forms in a survey or multiple offers in an upsell process, you'd just paste in the next form's URL here, of course, to be able to get them to redirect. And you'll notice it says pass the contacts information to the thank you page. If you say yes, then of course it's going to pre-populate any fields that already have data on them in that next form. So again, similarly with some of those hidden fields, you can take advantage of that benefit. You'll notice up on the top, and this is more specifically for a landing page than it is a web form, you'll notice that it gives you a section for meta description, meta keywords, and title. That's mainly for SEO purposes. We don't provide you the description, keywords, or anything of that nature, but be aware that you can just search for Google to get different tips and pointers about what's the best type of keywords to offer, how should a description really be phrased and set up. And there's plenty of articles that don't cost you anything, of course, to access, and then you can get a couple pointers about how Google, for example, prefers to have that set up, and a couple tips. So that is true even on a web form, even though we don't provide you that by default. Once you embed the information, it'll actually, some of those articles will actually point out exactly what type of information to insert and where to insert it. So the code, for example, you can paste in your meta tags, meta title, other details and descriptions that you might want set up for SEO purposes. So feel free to look into some of that. If you have any questions, you can obviously let us know. But so far, that is some of the main things to talk about when it comes to the differences between landing page and web forms. There's not a tremendous amount that is, too out of the scope of the normal editor, but you just have to get, a little creative and think about how you might want to change the layout. If you want more of a full section down beneath, then turn on your footer and then, include that and just kind of work with it as you can. More kind of on a custom approach, your web forms and landing pages, even once they get embedded on the site, you have a lot more flexibility about what you can do with the code, how you can make it look, style changes and whatnot that you might want to include. So that's something that you can obviously either give a shot at and see what you come across. If you have any questions, let us know. But otherwise, that is one of the benefits that you can see is getting them on the site and having a little more style changes. So that's it for today. Thanks again for watching, and look forward to next week. And if you're unable to join for whatever reason, have a great holiday season and take care.